My dad's parents weren't crazy impressive physically people, and he obviously has surpassed people's expectations of himself.
When I was 12, my dad was 38 years old and he had his first heart attack, and it about killed him. And he lived another 40 years, so we were fortunate. He had quadruple bypass twice, actually. But from that day forward, my mom was super nervous and concerned about me and my health as a kid, and she always wanted to make sure I went to the doctor. That was the whole start of it all. I think that was deep ingrained within me. So just out of college, I was in decent shape because I would go out on jogs and I'd lift weights periodically. But I would be kind of what they call maybe a little bit skinny fat, meaning you don't have quite enough muscle and maybe you're carrying a little bit too much fat like around your waistline. And the thought of trying to add some more muscle and to get a little bit of that excess fat off kind of was a good feeling to me. But it wasn't really until my oldest son, Mason, got encouraged in high school when he was probably 15. He wanted to become a power lifter. So that's when I hired our first personal trainer to help us out and learn what to eat.
One of my dad's high school friends, he really dialed in both of our diets and our training.
So we got on a workout plan and we got on a good meal plan from our first coach.
And I remember doing this for a couple of months and then I stopped, but he didn't. So he kind of kept getting better and better and better. If you look at the pictures from around that time, his physique made a pretty drastic jump. And then once I got to the point where I wanted to compete, I kind of got out of my like little powerlifting, whatever era that I was in, martial arts. And I was like, hey, I want to do a show. Let's, find someone to coach us. And he was like, okay, like we can think about it.
But we had a guy at the gym on Thanksgiving Day, though, 3 years ago, that was a bodybuilder. And he saw me and Mason lifting weights, and he said, have you guys ever competed before? And we both looked at each other like, what are you talking about? Competed? Yeah, I played football. But he was asking if we competed in bodybuilding. And we both were like, no, we haven't. He said, well, you guys ought to look into it. Next thing you know, we're preparing for our first bodybuilding show, and I'm 49 years old, and Mason was 23.
Yeah, it was surprising to me how much progress he made in fairly late in his career by some people's standards.
And I actually won my age group in that very first show, but then I got second place in the overall.
Going into the first show that we did, my dad and I both had the same mentality, and that was, let's just do this for us. We're not worried about beating anybody. We're just trying to have fun. But then my dad realized how close he was to actually winning the entire thing for his age group and his division. And then going into the second show for him, I think that was the Pittsburgh Pro.
Once you win kind of a local show, then you have a chance to go to a bigger show. You go out on stage and you're posing and flexing, and with just the three of us, and I ended up winning the overall for my pro card. So that was really cool. So that's kind of the next endeavor, is to possibly compete in an actual IFBB pro show, win that show to get access and to gain entry into going into the Mr. Olympia.
That brings up a good point about genetics. One of the things that a lot of people tell me when I show them pictures of my dad is the fact that they'll say something like, oh my gosh, well, at least you have really good genetics. And people kind of latch onto this idea that if your parents look a certain way, that you're going to look exactly like them, or if they're very physically impressive, that it's going to be easy for you. When look at my dad's dad, and he was never a super physically impressive person, but my dad is. And so I think that highlights the importance that you don't know what your genetics are going to be like until you put yourself into something, if you apply yourself physically.
I think at this stage, I've really tried to make it a habit of being kind of an inspiration in a way. And that's why I ended up writing this book. I just had taken notes when I was going through this process. It dawned on me one time. I thought, man, I should write this down, like what all I've learned from my coaches that have helped me. And I literally just wrote down pretty much everything that I did on a day in, day out basis to get to this level. I do have some people that come up and say, what did you do? And I'll just give them one of these. No regrets at all. I think it's just being a positive example, and it makes me feel good that, we can try to help other people try to help improve themselves.
I will say I'm immensely proud of what he's accomplished, because when I got into bodybuilding, I was thinking purely for selfish reasons. It was about how can I puff myself up and, get my pro card. And then when we found out that my dad was going to be more serious about it than I was, it was just super cool to watch that transformation.
My name is Joey Spires, and this was my journey in bodybuilding. This is Joe Spires, and welcome to Jackass.
No, this is the ending.
Oh. This is Joe Spires, and this was my...
Say, my name is Joey Spires, and this was my journey in bodybuilding.
Okay, this is my journey in bodybuilding. This was my journey in bodybuilding. Okay. All right.
My name is Joey Spires.
My name is Joey Spires, and this was my journey in bodybuilding.
Say it one more time.
This is Joey Spires, and this was my journey in bodybuilding.
No.